Alright guys, this is Risk here, back with another cold analysis on Game 3 of TY versus Parting from DreamHack. Really looking forward to doing these, so without further ado, let's get right into these. So this is game number 3. I'll link into the description game 1 and 2, which I already did in a previous video, but I'm pretty sure game 3, from what I've heard, really stuck out in terms of the game and how crazy it was, so we really want to break this down and see what we can learn from it. So obviously a PVT, Prion Terraces. Map is only it's cross spawn, so both players know exactly where their opponent is. No 4-player map, anything like that. It's a pretty interesting map. So anyways, bottom right is TY. Top left we got Parting, and right away you'll see the biggest thing on this map is that there's a gold base at the 3rd and the 4th, and all of these bases are kind of horizontal, so there's kind of like this 5-base setup that is gonna be pretty common across the line, but having all of this space, having all your bases being so horizontal, means that 2-pronged attacks at the same time are always going to be very common, and drops too. Just any type of maneuver here while doing something at the 3rd base. I gotta fix my volume setting really quick. Where are we at? Here we go. That's what we wanted. Get that in-game volume going. Sorry about that. So, TY opening up with gas into barracks, very common on a cross-spawn map like this, most likely for a Reaper, I'd imagine. And Parting's opening up gas gateway. So, because of the way the map is, no one's going CC first because of the shorter distances between the two. Just see where these two where they head with these builds. Looks like Parting's gonna go into a Nexus. Very standard. Just in general, very safe openings from both players. Got a SCV Scout from TY, which we saw in game number 1 between these two, is kind of the benchmark of TY. Yep, so Reaper on the way. He's going to be able to see everything. Even though his SCV is seeing everything, that Reaper does allow you to put quite a bit of pressure on with that grenade ability. And we have Probe crossing the map as well. He's going to spot the CC. But the question is next is, where is the gas going? Because Parting right here, he's getting a 2nd gas, and TY is starting to bank up gas, and most likely and obviously for a factory. So the question is, though, is where do these two players put their gas? And the nice thing about this Reaper is it can scare away this Probe Scout very nicely, which is exactly what he wants. Ooh, a little bit of a supply block from Parting, which is not ideal at all, but look at that, that Probe Scout dies. Parting does not know where the gas got spent, so according to Parting's vision right now, he does not know that it's a reactor. That Probe Scout died and he's completely in the dark. TY could have gone factory, he could have gone 2nd barracks, he could have thrown down a reactor, he could have thrown down a tech lab, and Parting doesn't know any of that information because TY opened the Reaper. I think a lot of times players get really pigeonholed into thinking that the Reaper is for scouting. But the Reaper is also for denying information, which is also very important. So don't overlook that with an opening like this. You're looking to deny information just as much as you're looking to acquire information on what your opponent's doing. So we got Adept Mothership, the safest possible thing. You can put a little pressure on with this, I think is what Parting's going to be aiming to doing maybe, but most likely just going to be here to shoo away the Reaper. But actually, look at this. TY is not even going to try to overextend. TY going into a factory while pumping out Marines. Maybe for that Oracle. The one thing is that when Parting, I just want to pause here, whenever as a Protoss player you scout a fast Reaper opening like that, you can kind of know that there's going to be less Marines out because a Reaper was sent out, which makes any sort of Oracle play a little bit more powerful than it would be before. So TY counteracts that by just throwing down that reactor and getting a bunch of Marines out to be able to be safe from that. Robo follow-up from Parting, and look at this, 3 CC from TY, a very aggressive economic play, Actually very relatively risky with the little amount of information that TY has. Let's look at TY's vision. TY actually hasn't spotted anything since then, but he did see the timing of the second gas, which might give him a little bit of comfort, and he also knows when that Nexus went down. Whoa! Accidental scan by TY. That is, strange, no doubt. No idea why he did that. That was a misclick from him. Well, there's 100 minerals down the drain, but once again, TY, just like in game number 2, is going into this really fast tech lab on the factory. This tends to be a common trend with Terran players going into that Cyclone, which is super safe against Warp Prism, against Oracle, and then right away going into that Siege Tank to allow you to have safety against any sort of Gateway All-In. Meanwhile, Parting over here is going to go after the Robotics Bay. He's going to go into that Twilight Council. So this is looking a lot like game number 2, except that their openings were very safe. And Parting going into an Observer because, once again, Parting is completely in the dark. He has no idea what's going on because of that initial Reaper Scout denied so much information. There's the Cyclone I was talking about right there. Gives you so much safety against any sort of Oracle play, any sort of Warp Prism play, which are all very common things in Legacy of the Void. So what's Parting going to do here? Looks like he's got Blink and another Observer. So this is kind of that build that we saw Pig Baby use in Heart of the Swarm, where you get a billion Observers out and a lot of Blink Stalkers out initially. So this build is just like really, really, really safe. You're going to know what your opponent's going to be able to do, and you're also going to be very mobile. So that's what Parting looks like he's gearing up to do. Bunker on the way. This is the one downside to not overextending with that Reaper. He has to assume that there might be aggression on the way, which is why he throws that bunker down, because he really doesn't know at all still what's happening. That tends to be the general trend right now, is players are very in the dark in terms of scouting, but their openings are very, very safe. They just tend to be in the dark. So like I said, Cyclone opening right into that Siege Tank. That's exactly what TY was doing. More gateways being thrown down, very logical with the Blink opening. And this is actually going to be his third Observers. Now look, let's see what we have, what we see here. So Parting, let's keep an eye on Parting's eyes. We're going to slow this down to normal. Parting's Observer, look at he spots the third CC, and he spots the factory. And right away, what's his response to this going to be? Does he have any sort of immediate response? His immediate response is most likely going to be take a third base, and yeah, that's exactly what Parting does. Saving up resources right when he sees the third CC, immediately he goes and takes this gold base. Did you guys see that? That was the trigger for Parting. When he sees that third CC, he immediately expands. It was an immediate reaction, and he was waiting for that information before he took his third. So from here, once again, a second Siege Tank from TY and a bunker. Because, once again, he's been in the dark this long that he didn't know what to do in terms of what units he wants to be aiming towards. But this bunker could also be for defending Warp Prism Harass. It's a possibility, I'd imagine. But that's also what the Cyclone is dedicated to. Now look at this. 5-minute mark. This is definitely a defined point in the game. Because whenever you see someone throw down buildings at a rounded time frame, like 5 minutes, you know that there's a reason for it. So, double engineering bay at 5 minutes with this build. And we saw that with the last build as well. Right when you reach full saturation with both of your bases, that's right when you're going to throw down your double engineering bay and your third gas. As well as 2 more barracks. I linked into the description that replay of game 1 and 2, the analysis of that, because this build is looking literally identical so far, which is why I'm kind of familiar with what I'm talking about. I have never seen this game before, but I'm familiar with his opening. So right when he reaches full saturation around 5 minutes, the double refinery, double engineering bay, and he gets 2 more barracks. All of this is very common. Now, Parting on the other side, he's going into that robotics bay, and now, just now, at the 5:30 mark, is he getting his forge. Now, is there any trigger for this at all? Is there anything in particular that happened at this moment? I don't know. I feel like this forge is probably just thrown down at around 5:30. I think that's a pretty safe conclusion. There's nothing that Parting spotted in particular that would have made him go, oh, I should react with the forge. So around 5:30, you're going to want to get your first forge. And we got, in terms of Parting's vision, he's got very good coverage right now. He's got an adept, he's got observers covering both drop spots, so he'd be able to react immediately. And Blink is almost done, so Parting is feeling just very safe right now. He also took his third before TY did, except that TY's had this third base for a long time. And this adept and observer are going to be able to spot this right away. More gateways being thrown down because of the influx in minerals he's about to have. And notice that Parting continues to probe up for this third base. That's something a lot of players forget to do. If you're about to take your third base and you've kind of delayed it for a little while, continue to probe up, especially if you're safe. So this adept gets sacrificed, and TY is going to be mining up. Now, where is TY heading in terms of the mid-game? This is the first starport being made at 6 minutes. Notice that trigger time right there, right when he was switching around. Once he achieves the setup of 2 barracks with tech labs and 1 barracks with the reactor on it, that is when he throws down his starport. Around 6 minutes, or based off of that. We don't really know. That's something you'd have to ask TY about it, but I think we can make the general conclusion based once that swap is done. That's when you throw down that starport. And another reactor. This factory is just being used to make add-ons at this point. +1/+1. We want to keep track of when he takes that gas on his third base. Parting, getting his first Colossus out, chronoing out the upgrades. Everything's pretty good so far. So I want to stop for a second here. So if we think about, move the camera down and then slightly up. There we go. If we think about the way these two players open relative to game 2, it's been literally identical. The only difference is that Parting did not open up with Warp Prism Harass, which would make sense because on a map that's a little bit smaller, the Warp Prism is kind of a bigger gamble in terms of TY can get to your side of the map faster. On that last map, the distance was huge, so you kind of have that cushion in there of time where if you Warp Prism harassed and didn't get much done, TY couldn't just sprint across the map and kill him, type of a thing. So on this map, because of it's a shorter distance, I think that's why Parting decided to go for the Colossus as opposed to the Warp Prism Gateway harass. But so far the openings have essentially been identical. You have Parting opening up Gateway, Cybercore, Robo, really fast observers, Twilight Council, Blink, a bunch of gateways, take your third base. TY on the other hand, same thing. Only difference is that he opened up Reaper. That was the only small, minute change that was made. And he goes, alright, barracks, factory, cyclone, siege tank. 2 more barracks, 2 engineering bays, and now I have put my stake down. Those are my production buildings. That is my core that I'm going to be producing off of until I take that 4th and 5th base. So, continuing back to the game. Get that +1 arm on the way. Observer sees everything. A little bit of an oversight from TY. Always want to clear up those observers, of course. Where's TY at? Where are you at, TY? Look at how much stuff is in the production tab right now, too. Okay, so look at this. Right around 6:30, throw down that next refinery. And we got this reactor finishing up. You notice in Legacy of the Void that turn players, as opposed to going that double reactored barracks, they go 2 barracks with tech labs and get out the upgrades really fast. So that is something to definitely take note of. As your that stake in the ground I'm talking about, that's going to be that 2 barracks with tech labs and your barracks with the reactor, as opposed to 2 barracks with the reactor and a barracks with the tech lab. And now that the third base is starting to mine, look at this. He throws down 2 more barracks, just like in game number 2. He's going to throw down a bunch more production. Well, not a bunch, but 2 more tends to be the number. After your first 2 bases, whenever you expand, throw down 2 more production buildings. And Parting, it should be the same thing. Any second now, he should be throwing down 2 more gateways. Actually, there it was. He did throw down those 2 more gateways I was talking about. So let's continue from here. Because now that the production's been established and we saw how both of them arrived at the mid-game pretty smoothly, neither side really doing too much to each other, things are going to be beginning to speed up pretty quick now. Notice the Warp Prism's out, where we want to keep track of this Cyclone, because this Cyclone is the anti-Warp Prism. Cyclones cost like a lot of money, like a lot, like 150 gas. So from the early game, you do not want to be losing the Cyclones. So kind of want to keep track of it. But we can see here it has a lot of really nice micro potential. Even picks off a sentry. Very nice play. From here, we just want to keep track of kind of like the general army movement between these two guys. But TY is sitting pretty nice. More Colossus on the way. When will the double robo, when will that second robo be thrown down? It's kind of the question we want to ask ourselves. +1 finishing up right now. Look at this. Gets 2 more add-ons. Just both these players were really passive. Pretty laid back, pretty chill. No one really trying to outdo the other person. Now look at this. 4th base from Parting at the 7:30 mark. So look at this. Parting is the aggressive player. He's the one putting on the pressure, so he's also going to be the one who's expanding, because he has the map control. He has the vision. Look at Parting's vision right now. He's out in the middle of the map. He's got his observer line established. He's got a pylon here. Defensively, he feels really nice and set up. TY, on the other hand, he is completely boxed in here. He has pretty much no vision. He even had to scan just to see how committed Parting was to this push, which you never want to have to do.
Add-on complete.
But from here, Warp Prism moving out, doing its thing. Look at this really nice play right here. He's got a bunker established, which I really like. It's really unique. We kind of saw how TY did this in the other games, where he would have his bunker at his natural, really uniquely positioned. In this case, it was in his main, and it's going to help him out against these adepts. So look at this, 2-pronged attack. He's going to attack at the natural while he's expanding, while he's getting up his second forge. He's adding on those 2 gateways, like I was saying. Scouting out with these adept shadows, very nice, just kind of feeling TY out, seeing where he's at, while continuing to harass. And that's the really nice thing about adepts. They have so much mobility, and wow. Parting was just doing a lot of damage with that attack. But look at this, a nice drop from TY. This is something that went unnoticed that entire time. Okay, it's something to observe. This observer at this point in the game should get moved and relocated down here. That's something Parting did not do. At the point that you're taking this 4th base, this observer is nothing. You should readjust it to right here. This one is fine, but once you take this base, your observer should be moved to right here. So that's something you always want to be looking towards, guys. How can you readjust small things like that? In this case, that observer would have helped dramatically with stopping this, even though he's going to be just fine right now. And let's go to units lost quick. Parting has actually lost more, but he also is going to be establishing his 4th base sooner, so kind of evens out. So meanwhile, now that Parting got pulled back, look at this. He starts off +2/+2, which he might not have done had he not done that. He knows he has a little bit of space to get those upgrades. And now, the double Liberator begins. Now, he knows that there's Colossus on the map, and he's choosing right now to get double Liberator because he has some siege tanks. Had TY not had these siege tanks, most likely I think he goes ahead and gets Vikings, but since he already has the siege tanks with which range equal those Colossus, I think he decides to go for those Liberators instead, which is a just fine decision. And look at this. Gets another starport, which he's most likely going to attach to this attachment right there. So just like in game 2, that double starport setup. Notice the relatively low barracks count. You have 3 barracks with tech labs and only 2 barracks with reactors, so very gas intensive units. And Parting just kind of getting scanned, and TY feeling pretty aggressive right now. The 3 Colossus is actually quite a bit, but it looks like he's going to step forward. And look at this, right when he stepped forward, TY's taking a 4th base. You'll always see this. Whenever a player steps forwards, he's expanding at the same time. If you're ever aggressive and you're moving out, expand, expand, expand. That's a concept you should always have. Parting, once again, is going to continue this Warp Prism harass. That bunker, look at this. TY actually is rallying to his main base, not to his 3rd base. He feels fine at his 3rd base. He already has his main army there. He's worried about his main base, which in Legacy of the Void, it's very harassment-oriented, so it makes sense. Now look at this. We saw how he got those 2... He built those 2 Liberators. Where are these Liberators? Here they are. Now look at this. Look at this just beautiful play. He's moving out with his main army up the middle of the map while he sends one Liberator up north to the main base and one Liberator to the fourth base. This is a three-pronged attack, and it's very simple. All he had to do was shift-click using his mini-map and shift-click. I think a lot of players, they get really intimidated. They're like, oh, I need to be able to three-prong harass. And they think that it takes all its APM. That literally took about 4 clicks for TY to do this. Only 4 clicks. And those were just rallied right from the starport. And now look at this. TY has identified that Colossus is the main part of Parting's army. So how does he react? He makes 2 medevacs and 2 Vikings. He's going to be focusing on the medevacs because he has a relatively low medevac count for his bio, which he needs more so he can always be able to threaten that drop, and also for the healing. And he also gets the Vikings as a reaction to those Colossus. That's a general theme we see from TY. What buildings is he making out of his starport is always going to be something that we need to be looking at. And look at this. TY is going to be charging up the middle. Let's look at Parting's vision right now. Parting does this nice little observer placement is going to spot that Liberator, and he even has a lone adept out here, which is really nice. He's going to go ahead and take the watchtower, which is something you should always be looking to do. This is something that Parting did a really good job of in this game. He has the bottom one, and he's also going to take the top one, which is so much vision in the map. Like, it's probably like 1/20th of the map you have vision of, which is a big deal. It's going to help him be able to identify what's going on. Huge warp in, which is just fine. Notice how he did this when he saw that TY's army was out in the middle of the map. If you ever see your opponent's out of position, that's always the time you want to invest and go ahead and harass him. And these Liberators actually did not do much. I really like the single cannon that Parting had. Actually, he has cannons everywhere. That's something you should always do as a Protoss player throughout the mid-game if you have minerals to afford it. Throw down a cannon or 2 in your mineral line, because these Liberators can do so much. But meanwhile, while he's taking his 4th base, TY is going to stim up here, see what he can do, but he's going to disengage. And look at this. He identified the main armies here, so he's going to spread himself out. He's going to set his medevacs north while he most likely drops this medevac right here. So always moving around based off of where the main army is. And now, what is he getting from his starports? Look at this. He queues up another... He looks at that. He's going to queue up a lot more medevacs right now. He feels like that in general, the Colossus count is not growing, so he wants to continue to get out those medevacs so he can threaten to harass. And that also is generally a mid-game thing. He's in that phase where he just wants to be dropping. Slowly growing that Viking count. And look at that. The double robo has been made, and now getting those disruptors, getting out those upgrades. TY, behind all that aggression, went ahead and took that 4th base. Very important to note. And those gases were established as quickly as possible from Parting, but notice that TY in general didn't need those gases quite as quickly when you're a Terran player. And now this is one of the first times that... Actually, I want to stop here. Look at Parting's vision right now. This is just superb. He literally has vision of the entire line down the map. I hope you guys can see this mini-map. Literally, he has complete vision. Just so much safety in having this much knowledge. Whereas TY, look at that. When he's not out-dropping, when he's not being mobile, when he has to back off, if you can force a Terran player to be pushed all the way back, look how little vision TY has. He doesn't know if Parting's taking a 5th base. He doesn't even know where any warp prisms are. He's playing completely in the dark, and that's actually why he has to throw down these turrets, because he just doesn't have the vision to keep track of everything right now. From here, Parting should take a 5th base. I'd imagine he would, but he probably will. Now we're just going to spot. Look how TY sets up. Just a really nice spread. He's got a very large arc, taking advantage of this kind of open area. He doesn't really want to let TY like hug. Actually, this map is just so nice. This area is huge. Even if Parting hugged the wall, he can just come over the top. We'll see how Parting controls the situation. Siege tank, so good for zoning. They don't do that much damage, but they threaten it. And look at that, he's gonna dive, take out one, and that's... Ooh, so it's always so tempting to go ahead and do that. But we want to keep track of this medevac right here. Look at this. Sees the main armies right here. He's just gonna go ahead and drop real quick. Only drops one though. Once he saw that warp in, he just backed off. Oh, that dies. And look at this. TY is so desperate for vision that he sends out single units. Look at that. He scans, he sends out individual units, he does everything he can. As a theme, if you're ever stuck back, vision is the most important thing that you need to gain. It's not another base, it's not +3/+3. What you need to know is vision. You need to have vision of the map, you need to know what your opponent's building. Also, I want you to notice that now that he knows that Colossus, or now that Parting is transitioning into Disruptors, because he saw that Parting was doing that, now he goes into Liberators, because he knows, because Parting has stopped that Colossus production, eventually TY is going to deal with the Colossus. And once those are gone, because those take such a long time to rebuild, all he's going to have to worry about is that ground force, disincluding Colossus, and that's especially what Liberators excel against. These Vakins just poking around. These Liberators still controlling the Watchtower. Just so much nice little vision. High Templar, +3, or +3/+2. Really nice upgrades. 4 Liberators at a time. 2 more barracks being thrown down. Now that this, like I said, now that this 4th base has been established, that's when we see 2 more barracks get thrown down. Once this is saturated, that's when you throw down your 2 more production facilities. Just like Protoss will throw down 2 more gateways. Also, notice he was floating a lot of minerals, and because he's kind of approaching that max, and everything he's kind of building is more gas intensive because he has so many tech labs, he is really going to be focusing on just building CCs, because gas is his limiting factor, not his minerals in this case. It used to be different in Heart of the Swarm, but in Legacy of the Void, gas is going to be mainly your limiting factor here. And look at this little sparring for towers. There's always going to be little fights for the tower. Something people don't generally notice, like casters. And look at this. TY identifies that Parting can't really attack into his line, and that's something you always can identify, something you can always look for. I have this spot established, this area is mine, and since you cannot attack here, and since you're posturing right outside of this area that I know you cannot attack, I'm just going to send a drop. It's so simple. Same thing with Protoss. If you own an area, if you've wedged yourself between 2 bases, if you force yourself into a position that you know your opponent can't push into you, but they're posturing right outside your area, that's when you warp Prism. That's when you warp in reinforcing units. It's when your opponent is occupied with the position that they can't force themselves into. When all their attention span is in a certain area that you feel like you can 100% defend very easily, that is when you go ahead and backdoor and you have those little jabs at your opponent. And that's exactly what TY is doing right now. It's exactly what TY has identified. Parting once again, blinking up units. This is the huge part about this entire match that's amazing. It's just the constant war for vision. Look at this. TY claimed the tower. That tower is TY's and nobody else's. The Liberators continue to come out because the Disruptors continue to come out as opposed to Colossus. And look at this. TY doesn't even need to attack the 3rd. He scanned. He knows. All he has to do is threaten. It's a constant battle of kind of that tug-of-war of vision. Parting has to react to this. He doesn't have a choice. Triple medevac is huge. Storm on the way. Double Disruptor, like I said, and a DT Shrine. And more cannons. Cannons are always good. But that double Disruptor, what that means for TY is he can go into medevac Liberator. If he saw more Colossus, he would be forced to go into Viking. But because he's going into Disruptors and that ground army, TY is allowed to make mass Liberator and mass medevac, which is exactly what he wants. Because if you're ever against just a ground army of Protoss, you can literally put down a Liberator line and just drop. Just drop, just counter drop, do all these nice little things. Look at this. TY identifies, oh, nothing at his 3rd. And he goes ahead and he attacks over here. And he's just posturing this little bio army. Look, notice it's not like all of his army either. He's just taking little chunks of mobile forces that he can move around the map really nicely. Very nice. Good stuff. Look at this, his little control groups. He's just got 2 control groups going here. Other control group is right over by his main army. Always looking for vision. Just keep track of the vision. Look at this. He has look at this. He has claimed the towers. He has this upper area. He even got a sensor tower because sensor towers are so good in Legacy of the Void. And now he took this southern area. Parting has less vision now, and as a result, he's not going to be doing nearly as well. Fusion core on the way. We'll see what he has to do with that. But the first High Templar being warped in. I mean, Parting, I've been so hard on Parting, but Parting is heading more and more towards that ideal composition. You got Storm, you have Colossus, you have Disruptors. Those are all the power units you're aiming for. TY just posturing. This game's so much posturing, but it's so important to notice how vision affects the posturing. And this Warp Prism, I don't really like this. He sent this Warp Prism in when there was nothing else going on, which means, as a result, it's going to get shut down like really hardcore, and that's exactly what happened. Never harass unless you're doing something else, like expanding. Nice little drop, which is obviously going to cue him to do something up here, because that's just the way it works. I'm waiting for it to happen any second now. Alright, that was disappointing. He could have done a lot of damage. All he had to do was step up here. If you ever do one thing with one drop, do something with the other. But meanwhile, look at this huge cut by TY. He sees that his entire opponent moved his entire army to react to that drop, so what does he do? Bam, he cuts up along this entire area. And look at how much vision he claims by doing this. Just by, look at this, he keeps the Liberator line here with a few of them, but he thrusts up north, and with it, look at all the vision he gains, all the safety and clarity he has by knowing exactly what's going on this side of the map. And from here, using Liberator, he's just going to slow push very nicely with Liberators. Will Parting react to this? I would use this drop. That drop could have done so much in the main base. I feel a little bad about that. But a nice little elevator play. Parting wisely gonna sidestep the Liberators for the most part. And notice, look at this aggression. Just like I said. TY forces himself on the map. What does he do behind it? He expands. Every single time. Whenever he does that, he expands. +3/+3, and Ghosts on the way. With the identification that there's High Templar out, that's when he goes ahead and gets Ghost. Now, the Colossus are still the main issue that TY has to deal with, and he doesn't really have Vikings to deal with it, so the question is how is TY going to deal with the Colossus, because that's the biggest threat on the map. He's made the transition to mostly making Liberators, but that's going to hurt him right now, because that Colossus count is very strong, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back into Viking. But that drop that was over there made a move. Whenever you see your opponent moving out towards you, do whatever you can to force them back. If your opponent's trying to take a position that you know you can defend, that's when you throw down your aggression in their base. Again, let's identify what vision they have. Parting, pretty good vision right now. He feels pretty safe with this attack. TY, he owns the towers. He's feeling decent about this. Like, his drop's doing damage. Colossus doing their thing. Really nice EMPs. Very nice EMPs. Parting hadn't identified that there was ghosts out yet, so he took a big hit there. But how is TY going to deal with these Vikings? We have 4 DTs being warped in. I don't know where. They're somewhere. Oh, they're over here to deal with the drop. Drop continues to do damage. Ooh, look at this. Nice little pick off from Parting. Very nice. As long as he doesn't lose anything. And look at this. Okay, he decides to go into Liberators again. He was thinking about Vikings, but he decided that he's going to be able to deal with the Colossus. And the one thing to notice on a map like this, look at how immobile this Protoss army is. Because the Stalkers have to stay with the Colossus. That's one thing I think a lot of people forget, is that people always say, like, oh, Blink Stalkers, they're just like here and then they're here. They're so fast. They're so mobile. They're so great at defending. But if you have an army of Colossus, you have to guard them. Maru has shown you what will happen if you don't guard your Colossus. And in this situation, Parting, if he's ever crossing the map, he has to stay with this Colossus. He can't, like, blink forward and try to get to the other side as fast as possible. So, TY is taking advantage of that. He's like, yep, I'm just going to set up my Liberator line and I'm going to drop. That's what I'm going to do. That's how I roll. 5th base is mining. It's a big deal. But now, Parting, He's pretty much maxed, and he's like, alright, enough of this, let's fight. I'm so tired of waiting. Single Liberator. Oh, look at this beautiful single Liberator. And guys, this doesn't take a lot of APM. All you literally do is click, shift, click. 3 clicks, and you've done something that your opponent has to have way more clicks to respond to. Way more clicks. So many ghosts. Oh, the MPs. Oh, wow. That's huge. Now, TY is in a bad spot because he doesn't have any Vikings, but it looks like he's chosen to say, you can't engage me because whenever you do, I'll EMP and I'll counter drop. Like, I'll force you to essentially not be able to attack my position while I do other things on the map. And look at that. He had to warp stuff in, he had to blink it, and he had to target fire. That took a lot more clicks than the other way around, but this 5th base is still going pretty untouched. And poor sensor tower getting wrecked. But look at this. TY, that Liberator count is rising. Pure Liberators. He hasn't lost. Look at this medevac count. He has plenty of medevacs, so he doesn't need to make those. So he now knows all he has to do is make damn Liberators. They're both pretty maxed. So from here, it's just watching their army control. Once again, little fights for the tower. All that fight for the watchtower, and now, I love the sensor tower, by the way. Pretty awesome. I should always do that. So many disruptors, but so many ghosts. If you go to the unit tab, there's 7 ghosts, 9 liberators, but there's 6 disruptors, 3 high templar, 5 colossus, way more SCVs for TY too. Bear in mind, TY is mining way more than parting is. Look at this. Throws down the disruptor line. Throws down the disruptor line. Look at this little counter attack right here. This is what I love. When TY identifies, you cannot, like I was saying, I'm going to go back to the camera one last time. This is the key to Terran right now. When you have Liberators, you say, you cannot attack this position. You are not allowed to attack this position, and because of that, I can counter attack. The Liberators give you so much peace of mind. You cannot attack this position, and because you have to still posture here, your army is still here, you're still trying to, but you're not going to be able to anytime soon. I'm going to go attack. I'm going to go leave. I'm going to go attack. I'm going to go counterattack with my Bioforce. That is the key to the way TY is playing with this army. And parting, what can parting really do? Not much right now. And look at this. Look at this. Like, oh, it's just beautiful. TY just, look at, he just maneuvers the map so well. He knew that Parting's army was over here and that had to go all the way back around here. So what does he do? He sprints over with his army and he takes out as much as he can. It's great gameplay. I cannot express how awesome this is by TY. And look at how slow Parting's army is because of the Colossus. Look at how slow he is to react. And these Liberators, once again, oh, look at this play. Look at this play from TY. TY throws down the Liberators, and again, he says, you are not allowed to attack this position. And he wedges himself between this base, and now he's taking this base out. He wedged himself in here. And is just going to be able to take this base out for free. He just completely outmaneuvered Parting. Look at that. Doesn't matter. Okay, I lose some Liberators, but the trades for days are so good. Trades are awesome. Look at that. Now he's starting to lose those Colossus, which is awesome because every time a Colossus dies, TY can just remax on what he wants, which is Liberators. Liberator, Liberator, Liberator. And to be honest, Parting let these bases go way too unmolested. Ideally, during a fight like that, you'd be warping in like 10 Zealots, and you'd be going for that type of base. So far, TY has always been the one who's initiating the harass and the counter attacks. But now Parting finally saying, hey, you really don't have that much of a response to my army. Like, you keep running away from me. Can't hide forever. And that's what the power of this Protoss army is, that it's pretty much impossible to engage head on, and the only time TY is safe is in his Liberator line. And whenever you try to go into a Liberator line, this happens. You're just gonna slowly lose Stalkers. Oh, I forgot to say, right when he pushed out over here, actually let's go back. Let's go back real quick. The beauty of TY's aggression is he always expands behind it. He always is looking for where his opponent is. Just completely outmaneuvered Parting. No two ways around it. They both got into the mid-game flawlessly. Water. They both got there smoothly. No one took way too much damage. This is a late game versus late game, and it came down to positioning, which is beautiful in my opinion. So I want to fast forward because I want to see when this base is taken. I don't care what's going on the minimap. When did this 5th base get taken? Because I think it'll be right when Parting moves out. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da. You can see that kind of posturing in the middle of the map. You can just look at the mini map right now. Don't even look on the main screen. Look at the mini map. All that posturing. You can see the army movement. Look at this right here. When TY goes ahead and claims this top watchtower, that's when he takes this expansion. When he puts himself out on the map, that's when he takes this expansion. Yep. I mean, Parting should have checked this. There's no excuse for not checking that from Parting, but it still goes to show. You expand, you move out, you expand. That's always what you're supposed to do. From here, we're just gonna go ahead, watch the mini-map. I just love looking at that mini-map. The way things move around. The general trend. Oh, look at this. You have the presence of mind to keep a single liberator. Look at these single liberators. He split those off during the fight. And we'll see how well they do for themselves. Look at this shift clicking. Oh, beautiful. Look at this. What do you know? Hey, Protoss is right here. Look at him. He's outside my front door. But wait! You cannot attack this spot. This is my spot. This is my wall. So what do? What do I do when he can't attack my position and I have a mobile army? A more mobile army than he has. What do? Oh, what do you know? We counter drop and we harass. Every time. TY continued to pick away at Parting, and Parting had nothing he was able to do against this Liberator line. There's nothing he could do against it. With his composition, and look how immobile Parting's army is. I'm not even going to look at the drop. Look at how slow this army is. The disruptors are horribly slow. Stalkers have to accompany the Colossus, and this army is just slow. It's taking them like 40 seconds to get across the map. Look at this. Finally gets back. Doesn't matter. Your expansion's gone. So in general, the trend has been TY, I am the more mobile player. I'm the one who's going to expand. I'm going to be the one who makes the decisive plays, and I'm going to use my liberators to allow myself to do that. And now Parting's getting desperate at this point. I don't think there's any other way to describe it. But he, once again, did you see how he wanted to get that tower? He didn't have time to take it, but he's always looking to take those towers. But now, Parting done the excellent play. He's wedged himself. He spotted the opportunity. He wedges himself right in between the main and the third, which is exactly what he wanted to be aiming for. And the Viking count is very low because TY did not really emphasize getting Vikings, and now it's really going to hurt him. Because he has so many liberators, he may be able to hold a position, but it doesn't matter because TY's army is great for holding a position, but Parting has got to that position that you'd usually want to be holding. So now liberators aren't that great because liberators are good for defending a spot, but they're not good for engaging a position. Parting can just like dance around all he wants right now. That's the weakness of liberators. Their zone control, that's very weak when they're attacking. And Parting from here, I think, should have just moved up into the main base. Would have been his most wise move. But he actually tries to fight the army. He actually goes into the liberators, which I don't see why he needed to do that. But oh, a huge fight, huge disruptor hit. Just nice control. Nice control from Parting here. And these Vikings are actually going to be able to slowly pick off, but mostly because of the ghost shots. And now the liberators doing their job. But let's be honest. None of this matters. That fight didn't matter. I'll show you what matters. This matters. 26 probes. His base is completely in disarray. He is not even mining right now. He has 80 minerals a minute. Now, why was that? That was because TY had a better composition. He utilized his composition better. And this final fight that happened, it didn't matter. None of that mattered at all. What mattered was all the lead up to it. What mattered was all the counterattacks that TY did. He bought so much time for himself, buying time, counterattacking, gaining information, gaining vision on the map, retaining his units as best he can, always expanding, always re-expanding, always mining. Parting, on the other hand, he was the one who was always moving his slow and immobile army around. That's the theme of Legacy of the Void. Who has the mobile army? How well can he use it? Because the mobile army tends to be kind of the weaker army, like in straight up fights. But the problem is that in Legacy of the Void, the mobile army is going to be the better army. Protoss are still adjusting to the idea that you can't just deathball. And I'm not blaming Parting. Parting had a great composition. He had a great opportunity. But I think the meta, people are slowly going to adapt to this Terran style of, you can't attack me, I'm always going to be counterattacking. And we'll see how Protoss players adapt. But this game's over at this point. None of this fighting matters. Doesn't matter. Nope, doesn't matter. None of it matters. GG is called. So as a general theme, what can we take away from this? Both of these guys opened very smoothly. Both of these guys transitioned into the mid game very smoothly. But when it came to the late game, it's whoever was able to use their mobile army the best, and how well were they able to manipulate the map, force themselves, wedge themselves into favorable positions, and how well were they able to trade. TY was always getting the better trades. Always. That's simply what, in the end, it came down to. TY had better control, better overall map presence, better tactics, better engagements. Parting, if you had two completely flat fields and you smashed their armies together, Parting wins. But TY never gave him the opportunity because he used Liberators to his advantage, to the peak of his advantage. And he was always adapting. If his medevac count ever got low, built more medevacs. If he saw that the Protoss was going more and more towards a ground army and away from Colossus, more Liberators. He made sure he did have some Vikings, because Liberators are not the perfect response to Colossus. They're a response to a ground gateway Protoss army with Disruptors and High Templar. I think that had Parting continued to pick away at the 5th and 6th base, if he would have been more aware of that, if he would have had better drop defense, better Liberator defense, he probably could have taken this game. He was in a great spot. It's just that the problem was he was always moving his huge, large army that was extremely immobile into a position that he couldn't fight into because of the Liberators, and TY just took advantage of that. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. This was Parting versus TY, game number 3, and I'll be uploading this. I'll be uploading game number 4 shortly. It should be Friday night. This is, what time is it? This is 12/7/2016. This is going to be Monday morning, or this will be Monday when it gets put up. So Friday night will be game number 4. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I was a little bit tired tonight. My analysis was not as good. I'm a little sorry. I have a little bit of a cold, but I'm trying my best. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I learned a lot from it. It was an awesome game. Maybe not so much from how they opened in terms of learning from that, but it was more so from the army movement between the two was ridiculous. The fight for information was constant. Anyways, guys, have a nice night. This is Risk signing out. Subscribe if you liked what you saw, and you can follow me on Twitter at Risk capital S lowercase c. You should just be able to look up Risk StarCraft. I should be right there. Would super appreciate that. And if you have any questions, feedback, comments, would love to hear it. Anyways, guys, see you guys next time. Have a great day.